Why does everyone think IVF is very hard on the body? Is this a misconception?
Because it is a misconception. It's emotionally traumatic more than physically. I think there's a lot of mental health issues which are associated with infertility. Because from the beginning they call you sterile, barns and all those words that exist. And when you're newly married and you decide to plan, everybody in the house is looking like that at you. Kuch hua kya? Kya ho raha hai?
Is infertility a woman's issue?
When you have a baby, it's the man and the woman. The woman obviously contributes the egg, and if you look at the man, the sperm. The sperm is very important also. The male contributes equally to the infertility. I mean, it's women empowerment. I feel very excited about it because it gives the woman a right over her body.
Yes, and the right to also decide what her timeline needs to be.
Absolutely.
Welcome, doctor, and thank you so much for taking out the time to be here today.
It's a pleasure.
So I'm looking forward to this episode, and a personal goal of mine is to be able to break the stigma around fertility and infertility, create more conversation around it, and also be able to break that gender disparity that comes along with it. To introduce you very quickly, you are one of the pioneers in the reproductive health space in the country. And I believe you've helped thousands and thousands of couples and families with being able to conceive. And what a job to have.
I think I thank God every day. I see this baby under the microscope. It's 8 cells. And then when I deliver and it comes out laughing, kicking.
Oh my God.
Oh God. The job satisfaction
is next level.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
It's
next
absolutely.
level. So it's very interesting. And of course, that's one side of it.
Yeah.
And I think the other side of it, and I mean, I'm aware that around 27.5 million married couples in India struggle with being able to conceive. And globally, the statistic is around 1 out of 6 couples are unable
Absolutely.
to have a child. But what is infertility? Can you break it down for us?
The latest survey actually, which said 1 out of 6 has really shaken all the governments. In fact, you'd be surprised that the governments are now coming up. Infertility used to be pushed under the carpet, just not given attention to. But now the governments are looking at it, that it is a disease. It affects nearly 15 to 20% of our population. So it needs to be treated. So I think what one needs to understand is that it is a burden. And, people don't know they're infertile. They're running from pillar to post. 6 mahine ho gaya shaadi ko, and they are going to the doctor, some of them. Whereas some of them, okay, we didn't want a child for 5 years, and we are trying now. See, what people don't realize is that supposing you try unprotected sex for 1 year and you are not successful, then that is infertility. So unprotected sex for 1 year is definitely there. But also there's a very important aspect to it. The age of the woman. Now, supposing I have a 40-year-old who comes to me and she waits for 1 year, it's a no-no. Because 70% of the women above the age of 40 have infertility. And now I'm seeing so many girls who are delaying childbearing, who are delaying, getting married, or they're not finding the right partner. So you're seeing it on the rise.
I hear you, but the thing is that the biological clock and the career clock firstly doesn't go together. And now, in all honesty, the biological clock and the clock of finding the one for you you can't time it. So it's almost...
There is a solution for that. And you're the, new generation. The technology is what comes in over here. And I am so excited about this technology. I introduced this in 2007. In fact, one of my patients was one of the first ones to actually go for it. She, you won't believe this story. She actually came because she wanted to donate her oocytes to a friend of hers.
What is oocyte? Sorry.
Eggs.
Okay.
Eggs. So she wanted to donate her eggs. So she said, can you freeze them for me? My friend will come down and then use those eggs and have a baby. So we actually, in 2007, we got this new technology of vitrification, meaning the eggs which we obtain They body temperature is 37 degrees centigrade. So you drop them at 25,000 degrees per minute
Okay.
directly to minus 196. Of course, there are protectants and
Yeah.
stuff that we put in it.
Yeah.
And the eggs are preserved. It's like suspended animation, they don't die. And then when you bring them back to 37 degrees, they are alive. We fertilize them and they can give babies. So that is known as egg freezing. And this technology has really revolutionized. I mean, it's women empowerment. I feel very excited about it because
No,
it gives the
absolutely.
woman a right over her body.
Yes, and the right to also decide what her timeline needs to be.
Absolutely. Without worrying that, oh my God, I'm getting older, my eggs will diminish, the quality of the eggs will. So now you won't believe it, when my first patient, so she came to me and then her friend never came and her oocytes eggs were frozen. And then she came and did another cycle, and she said, okay, I'll keep them for me. She's one of the celebrities. And then she got married very late, after 40. And she got endometriosis. And she couldn't conceive because of that. So then when we were doing IVF, we used those eggs which were frozen like 8 years ago. And she's got 3 beautiful babies with it.
Oh my God. Triplets?
No, it's single
Okay.
baby and then twins.
Twins.
We don't do triplets anymore. Triplets is a bad no for us
Okay,
now
okay.
in IVF.
Why?
Because, when there are multiple babies, there are all sorts of obstetric complications.
Yeah.
So to avoid that, we really now, the whole world, all over the world, we are going to a single embryo transfer. So
Okay.
we put in that one single baby, which will give us a child.
Okay. But that's beautiful. This is beautiful.
I think it is amazing what it can do to women. And the, oral contraceptive pills, when they were invented in the 1900s, early 1900s, they actually gave empowerment to the woman because she could control her, not fall pregnant as and when, So it was women empowering. This is another technology of this century, which is women empowering.
Amazing. Amazing. And do you see a lot of people coming to now for
You won't
like
believe it, when this case actually came forward and she talked about it. Mothers got their daughters. My daughter is going abroad to study. She won't come back for so many years. I want her to freeze her eggs.
Wow.
Of course, women in the glamour field definitely want it because they have a short span, which they can work. So they want to do that. Then there are a lot of girls who are in banking, who are lawyers, each and every industry, actually. I think it's becoming more popular. It's definitely picking up. I'm seeing about 3 4 girls every week, actually,
Incredible.
who come asking for.
And have you
freezing.
seen a gradual increase in the people that are
Oh,
the women that are coming to you?
definitely. Because girls are more educated now. They are women of the world. So they're aware of this technology.
Yes.
So
yes,
I
yes.
think awareness needs to be spread more, definitely.
And is it
But,
painful, the procedure?
you know what? IVF has become very patient friendly now. That's what, I mean, I remember those days. 30 years ago, I began IVF. Okay, I'm that old. But we would take blood tests, I mean, at least 4 5 times during the cycle. Can you imagine? Now we don't do a single blood test. We
Wow.
only do ultrasounds. So I think the technology is really changing now. So IVF has become very patient friendly. The injections also very less painful.
So I hope this is not a silly question, but IVF and egg freezing is different, right?
Okay, the procedure is same because you need to take hormones. See, normally when you have your menstrual period, you produce only one egg. Okay, so what we need for IVF is at least 10 to 12 eggs.
Okay.
So we give injections so that you produce more eggs. Then we
And then once the eggs say
yeah, that is with ultrasound. We see the growth.
okay.
See, the egg is like 5 millimeters, 10 millimeters, then 20 millimeters is when we go in. So that time we give an injection which will mature that egg. The egg is immature. And then we take you for under anesthesia and pass just a needle
Okay.
through your vagina, which will reach the ovary.
Okay.
And the egg is actually sucked out, like how you collect blood.
Yes,
That way
yes,
the egg
yes.
is removed.
Okay.
And it's a needle prick. It takes me about 15 to 20 minutes to do the process, and then the girl goes home after 2-3 hours, of course, because of anesthesia. And then the work begins in our laboratory. My laboratory is my spaceship. The technology there is so amazing, so amazing.
So what happens?
So then we take the eggs, we check whether they are mature or not. Then the mature ones are the ones which are used. So then we keep them in the incubator.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, the husband produces a sperm sample and gives it to us. Now we have various technologies with which we can really harvest the best quality sperms. Then those sperms are used, they're put in a dish. So we have this dish. It's not a test tube baby, it's a dish baby, if you call it. So we have this dish where the eggs are kept in separate droplets and the sperms are in the center. It's like a clock face. And then one sperm is picked up with the help of a machine known as a micromanipulator. And one egg is held and it's actually injected.
Wow.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating.
And then this egg is inserted.
Then this egg is kept in the incubator.
Okay.
Because it has to fertilize. The sperm has gone in, but doesn't mean that it will form a baby. Then usually the fertilization rates are around 80-90% of the eggs fertilize. Then once they are fertilized, we watch them grow. We have artificial intelligence even for the eggs now. The AI tells us that these eggs have that potential, which are grade 1, grade 2, they grade them. And then after that, we have AI even in the incubator, which grows the embryo. So it's like your telephone, time-lapse photography.
Yes.
So it takes we set it for every 15 minutes, photographs are taken, the growth of the baby is charted. These all computerized algorithms, you know that. And then that machine will tell me, okay, this is the best baby with the best potential out of those babies which are formed. And then we transfer one
back into the
womb.
Wow.
And then pray. I believe in God. So yes, and then hopefully in the next 12 to 14 days, we come to know whether she's pregnant or not. 50 to 60% is the pregnancy rate
success rate
right now. Yes, because younger girls. Now see, age is very important here, what I was telling you. So as the woman gets older, the success rate drops.
Okay, I'm going to slow you down a little bit.
Yeah.
So these are all solutions to infertility, right? So there are different solutions. The one is IVF, which is the process that you just explained to me.
And also remember one thing, what has happened is now with the pollution, with the stress, the endocrine disruptors in plastic and all, Indian women are aging faster than their Caucasian counterpart. So I see a 30-year-old with the ovary of a 45-year-old. This is happening.
So this was my next question, right? That you've been a doctor for decades now and you've seen it all, right? You come with such a flourishing sort of portfolio. But there has been a shift, and correct me if I'm wrong, but everyone around me, doctor, is complaining about being able to conceive. And if it was happening back in the day, maybe the conversation was irrelevant to me, so I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
Or maybe people were not talking about it. But in this current moment that I sit with you, I have an enormous number of friends that are really struggling to conceive. But has there been a shift? Is it evolution? Is it a lifestyle shift?
You know what? I think...
and it is true.
It is true. It is true because I'll tell you, 30 years ago, the WHO itself had come out with a survey that 7.5 to 10% is the infertility rate. Okay. And can you imagine where it has reached today? So yes, lifestyle. A lot of girls are smoking. They don't realize that smoking really damages the ovary. We know smoking causes early aging. But early aging, the first organ to age in a girl's body is the ovary. So the ovary shows signs of aging like literally 10 to 15 years before you see it on your body. And that is happening in our country. There's stress, there's pollution, there's autoimmunity. There are so many factors. And probably, there's recently a test which has come out, which is a blood test called serum AMH, which did not exist maybe I don't remember, 10 or 15 years ago. So we were unable to diagnose these girls. Like a 25-year-old with a 45-year-old ovary, we wouldn't know. You understand? But now because of this test of AMH, we're able to pick up those girls.
Is your AMH levels
Are low. But now again, there is a controversy over here because see, 30% of the girls or 40% of the girls with the low AMH will conceive very easily.
Wow.
But that 60% which is left over, they will have difficulty conceiving later as they grow older. So, it's a ethical dilemma whether to do this test at an early age. Because you will be subjecting 30 to 40% of the women who would have conceived normally to stress.
To stress, which is the worst thing.
Exactly. So that's why it's not become a norm yet. But, here is where egg freezing comes in. Supposing your AMH is borderline or low, you could freeze your eggs. Maybe you won't need them. You will conceive very easily. But then that
coming back,
insurance.
So coming back to the process of egg freezing.
Yeah.
You were saying it's not extremely painful, you would say.
It's the same process like IVF.
Okay.
Only thing is I don't put the baby back in. No, I freeze those eggs.
Okay.
And it was invented for cancer patients, by the way. It was first there because cancer patients get all kinds of medications, all kinds of surgeries, which are toxic to the ovary. And so this technology was all actually made for the cancer patients. And then we got more experienced. We got more, good at it, skilled at it. It's skillful. It's very, very skilled job to freeze those oocytes. Because see, those oocytes have to give you a baby after that. They have to create life after being frozen for 8 years.
It's hard work. It's hard work.
So it is a lot of skill.
And what about the hormonal impact? Would it be similar in IVF and egg freezing? Would it be different?
Yeah. In fact, women don't put on weight after egg freezing because we don't try to make them pregnant. See, when we make a patient pregnant, we give you this hormone called progesterone, which is the pregnancy hormone. That is the one which makes you feel hungry, eat more, put on, little bit water retention, etc. So you're not taking all those things. In fact, this is the first question that all girls ask me, will I put on weight, while doing this process? I said, no.
And what about hormonal imbalances, mood changes?
Wow, you really do know a lot about this. Yes, mood changes is one of the things that happens. But trust me, Masoom, it is not in all patients. 10 to 15% of patients have mood swings. But 85% patients go very smoothly through it. So you need to, process these statistics, I feel, before you go through it.
So, doctor, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of this conversation is to be able to normalize, taking the help of science, right, and medicine. But what is with IVF, what is the stigma that kind of comes with it in society?
You know what? Having a child is so important in our society because, from the beginning, they call you sterile, bans, and all those words that exist. And I think when you're newly married, everything, and you decide to plan, everybody in the house is looking like that at you. Kuch hua kya ho raha hai? When are you going to go? Then they'll give you 10 doctors' numbers. You understand?
Absolutely.
So it's a real trauma to the couple, trauma to the family also. I feel that the family also, now there's a change. This is something I wanted to tell you, that when I began practice 30 years ago, the girl used to be brought by her mother-in-law. Husband was nowhere in sight. Today, trust me, there's been a sea of a change. The couple comes together. The husband and the wife. In fact, at times the husband comes. Okay, my wife is busy at work, so I've decided to come. So things are changing.
Yeah.
The
men are finally realizing that parents needs two people.
Yeah, they also contribute.
I had this... I had a very serious conversation with my husband before we got pregnant. I said, we can plan a child, but you will make it for every single doctor's appointment or I'm not doing this. Because it's so easy to say I'm busy in a meeting.
Yeah.
We all are working. right?
Exactly.
But it's so easy to say I'm busy in a meeting for that gender. But he fulfilled it.
Yeah. No, I think the men have no choice to. No, but I think you should give some credit to the mothers who bring them up.
Of course, no, absolutely, 100%.
I think we teach them to
To my
respect.
mother-in-law.
Yes, we teach them how to respect girls, respect their spouse. I think
Yeah,
it's
it
very
comes from
important.
somewhere. There is a wife cannot instill this
No, no, no.
in a man. It comes
No.
from somewhere. There is subconscious conditioning that is
Yes.
needed for you to be a certain
Absolutely. I think it's very important, your home environment, everything. And today, I think there's a lot of, schools are talking about equality and everything. So I guess it's sinking in some way, but not all over the country. Unfortunately, I think this is
Still very
just 1
restricted
to
to
2%
metropolitan.
of the population. Unfortunately, we have a long way to go, but it's percolating.
So why does everyone think IVF is very hard on the body? Is this a misconception?
Because, yeah, it is a misconception because what happens, it's emotionally traumatic more than physically. I think there's a lot of mental health issues which are associated with infertility. As you said, I have patients who have taken a child from me. They love me. They will send their whoever it is and they'll say, please don't say I had an IVF baby. Because the society judges them. I don't think they themselves really care beyond the point. They are so happy with the child. And the fact that they're sending somebody, meaning they believe in the technology, they trust the technology, you understand. But somewhere there is some kind of a pressure, society.
Doctor, where's this coming from?
It's very difficult to answer that question. I think it's our culture which is there from the beginning that having a child is the only function of a woman. That's her. She's not a complete woman. All the movies used to show that. If you're not a mother, the olden movies I'm talking about, Nirupa Roy and those types. I don't even think you know Nirupa Roy. but those are those are the images.
Yes.
Like there's another I don't want to name that movie which has come. It shows, mother has to sacrifice everything. Unless she sacrifices, she's not a good mother. That kind of a thing. I think that image of the mother is changing.
Cultural conditioning.
Yeah, cultural conditioning. But it's changing. It's changing with
It's
education,
changing. It's
with
absolutely
awareness.
changing.
And I
but-
think conversations like this, it's
Which is
very
why I think
important.
this conversation is so important because, I know so many friends who've undergone IVF, but it's the same thing. They said, please don't share it with anyone, don't tell anyone. And I don't understand where it's coming from. It's the same people who struggled when
okay.
they were, going
Yeah.
through that process.
But it's okay. I think it's very, they don't want personal. It's very personal.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who talk about it openly. So it's okay. I think we have to let them be. But I think conversations like this will probably open up their minds and they will want to help other people.
No, absolutely. And I also hope that, because we have the power of the internet and we're not restricted geographically.
Yeah.
So I really hope we can also take this conversation to the interiors of India, who don't have that much exposure, who don't understand all of this. So, there's a lot of young women in my community who will be watching this. And can we talk about, going back to the basics, right? That what is the ideal age to get pregnant?
You all will all throw me out of the set.
We won't.
Younger
Yes,
than
you won't.
by 28, I feel, because I'm a doctor, I'm backing it up with science. I'm not talking like your mother-in-law. I feel that the eggs start diminishing, the quality starts diminishing. But yes, 35 in today's world, more practical to be 35. But we do know that science is showing things start changing after 28.
So before 28 is what you would recommend.
But that becomes difficult because you don't even get married today before 30.
I know.
So it's okay. I think 30 to 35 is a good age to get to have your first baby.
But age is an important factor.
Oh, age is very important for women. Age is very, very important for women.
Okay, interesting. So, even amongst us friends, we would actually have this conversation that how do you get pregnant? You think, and these are modern women, right? Urban women it's something we still turn to Google for because the conversation has not been had enough. But I'd love to hear you kind of, talk to young women out there. How do you get pregnant? What is that process?
I think this is a question which a lot of people come and ask me. So what we tell them is usually the fertile period, you should know your fertile period.
Okay, what is that?
Okay, when you get your period on, that is day 1. And generally the next period comes on 28th day. That's a regular cycle. But plus or minus 7 days is fine. Okay. So if you get your periods every 35 days, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Don't panic. So what we tell the couple is, say you take a 28 to 30 day cycle, then after day 10 of your period to day 18 of your period, you can ovulate anytime. So in the olden days, we used to say have sex alternate day, 10, 12, 14,
In these 8
18.
days?
Yes.
Okay.
In this middle period.
Correct.
Day 1 is the day you start bleeding. Okay. That's how we count it. Now we have ovulation test kits. So you just take these cards and you pee on it in the morning.
Yeah.
You start from day 10. If you see 2 lines, the next 24 hours are fertile hours. So you should have sex during that period.
So you ovulate. Ovulation is when the eggs drop.
When the egg is released from the ovary.
Once.
And it comes into the tube, yeah.
Okay.
And that time
So it
the
happens
sperm-
just once, right? In one cycle, it happens just once.
Yeah.
So as soon as your ovulation kit says yes, means that's the day.
That 24 hours is the period.
Okay.
And the sperm lives in the body for at least 5 days. So it's okay.
Okay.
The egg survives only for 24 hours to 48 hours.
Okay. And in this window of ovulation, how often should couples have intercourse?
If you're doing an ovulation test kit, maybe twice. One right away or that evening.
Okay.
And the next evening at a 24-hour interval. Now, the myth that, semen should be stored, it should not be frequently ejaculated is all wrong.
Okay.
Every second day or every day is absolutely fine. Today itself, I read a news clipping, which one of the celebrities, I'm not taking names, but she said it openly, that I got my first period in school and nobody had told me anything about it. I was so scared. A celebrity who comes from a very good, I should say medical background family. I was like, what happened over here? So, probably, I think sex education in school is very, very important. And I was the president of the All India Federation. So I did a lot of programs, not only in Mumbai. In Mumbai, we went to schools. We have programs running doing sex education in schools. And now I know that even my granddaughter's school, they call us to give talks to the children. So I think that is changing. But
Don't look like a grandmom. I would have never guessed.
I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, Zuri. She is too cute.
Oh my God.
She's amazing. And,
Aging is not working here.
let me tell you a secret. The IVF specialists are all going to go into aging. Because as I told you, ovary, that is my next passion. The ovary is the first organ to age. And you can pick it up and there are certain preventive steps which are happening all the world over to reverse aging.
So you're practicing on yourself first.
I think be happy, exercise. I think be happy. That's important. And I guess
And have a job that you love. Yeah, I was just going to say that. Having a job that you love, I can see the glow in your eyes and in your face. So,
yeah, I really love my work. Yeah. And, when you give a baby, it's not creating only father and mother. It's chacha, chachi, mama, mummy, pua, whatever, nana, nani. The entire family comes here. It's really beautiful. I need to tell you one story. This was one of my first babies. This was a doctor, senior. I was 30 and the doctor was 60, okay, that time when I began. And we had just introduced the laser hatching in this country for the first time. And he brought his daughter to me. She had had failure of 2 IVF cycles. And he brought her to me and we used the laser first time. And she conceived. And she got twins. You won't believe it. I delivered her at Breach Candy and he actually came and touched my feet.
Oh my
I mean, I was a 30-year-old with this senior man coming in. I mean, that's when I realized that it's a joy which is unparalleled. You know, I mean, I could see him crying and everything. It was amazing experience for me. It was life changing for me. And they named the children after me and my partner. So it was really beautiful. It was really beautiful. We are instruments of God. That's what I say, that we are lucky to have been chosen as the God's favorite.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But of course, we can't give, that kind of happiness to everybody. But trust me, technology is really changing. It has made such a difference. Like, we do a lot of research all over the world. So if you're a good patient, that means young girl, why do you think I'm harping on age? Young girl, good reserve, husband has a medium kind of a problem, uterus is good. In 4 cycles, nearly 9 out of 10 patients take home a baby. But yeah, if you're an older person or your ovary is aging, the male factor, the sperms are very, very poor, then yeah, in 6 attempts, about 60% get pregnant. So 40% don't. So what you need to understand is the age of the woman, the younger she is, that is the quality of the egg. So one should not hesitate in going into IVF earlier rather than later.
No, I hear you. Okay. What are some other myths and what are some, questions that come to you very often?
Is the test tube baby really mine? Yesterday only there was a patient. He's saying, okay, all this you'll do, but the sperm will be mine, no? I said, I'm doing all this so that the sperm is yours. So they always feel we're using donor sperm, donor egg. We don't do that unless you tell us to do it. And there's no alternative.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one. Second is, are they normal? That is the question. Obviously, everybody wants a healthy child, yeah. So I think, when I always
No, but this is in relation to IVF.
Yeah.
What are the questions you get in relation to conceiving? I'm taking you one step at the back. Like something like, do sexual positions matter?
Exactly. They ask that. It really does not matter.
It really does not.
I just tell them that as soon as you have sex, don't go rush into the bathroom and wash.
Okay.
Stay.
Yeah.
And actually, studies have shown that it takes seconds for the sperms to reach the tube. But yes, of course, we tell you just don't rush and clean yourself up and stuff like that. And I to tell my girls, never clean from inside. You use whatever you want outside, but don't. The body has a beautiful cleansing system. Don't
need to interfere with that.
And of course, semen has got pus cells, has got bacteria. Sometimes the man can pass the infection, but then you'll know immediately. So antibiotics should be taken.
And does working out during, trying in this conceiving period help? Is it helpful?
Severe workouts, meaning I don't know what's the word, extends very hard workouts, meaning
aggressive
workouts are a no. But mild to moderate workouts are absolutely fine.
Okay.
Women don't even know they're pregnant till you do the blood test. So those 15 days, coming back to IVF, those girls ask me, what care should we take? Should we lie in bed with our feet up? So I said, no.
None of this is...
You don't have to do anything. You can get on with your normal life. Go to work. I just tell them house arrest for 2 days. Otherwise, go to work. So similarly, the questions are that do I have to sleep in bed with my legs up? Sometimes, people say, we don't want to get our periods. So should we stop eating khajur? Should we these hot foods in Ayurveda? So allopaths, I'm an allopath. We don't believe in all that. If you're pregnant, nothing can
come
disturb it.
Any other common misconceptions when it comes to conceiving that you think is important to address?
No, the important thing is people don't know their fertile period. That such a thing actually exists.
That's an ovulation test.
Yes, I think it's very
I also used an app. So there's also these apps.
Oh yeah, there are apps also.
Which also help you to, it just shows you your notification.
Body temperatures. It kind of maps your cycle every month that you get and then it calculates accordingly.
Yes. No, it's actually great. In fact, you were talking about the ovulation test kit and this is something a friend of mine told me when I was even thinking about it. And you're right, because there was only one friend that told me about it. It wasn't a conversation, or it wasn't chatter. And I believe that I come from the part of society which is still very aware.
Yeah.
I'm traveling, I've lived.
But there's still a stigma.
There's a stigma in the conversation, right? So I hope we can normalize that.
Yeah.
But she told me about it, and I know that these kits are now easily available.
Over the counter.
Yes, absolutely. So is infertility a woman's issue?
That's a really good question. When you have a baby, it's the man and the woman. Okay, the woman obviously contributes the egg. So anything that causes hormonal imbalance or causes a blockage in her tubes, because the egg is released by the ovary and it enters the tube. And then the baby is actually formed in the tube, and then it travels back into the uterus to live there for 9 months. So that is a woman's aspect. And if you look at the man, the sperm is very important also. You won't believe it, 50% of the infertility, it is due to male factor. 30% is a severe male factor for which you need only IVF. But 20% is mild male factor, which you can conceive by different treatments. So that is what it is. A male contributes equally to the infertility. And I think the men are realizing it now. But the only positive, it's a patriarchal society
that we live in.
So, can I give you an interesting trivia? The semen analysis, which we do routinely now, because that helps us to diagnose male infertility, first time was done in 1958 or 59.
This late?
Yes. And that time they classified that, okay, there is a male factor. Can you believe it? The first published paper was so late. So there's not much advances in the treatment of male infertility. Nothing really works, tablets or injections, anything. What works is IVF. And it's a more advanced IVF, which is known as ICSI, ICSI. That means
which treats the male infertility.
Which takes the sperm and injects it directly into the egg. So, yes, for women, there are surgeries, there are medications, which can actually help her conceive.
Yes, but there's
more than IVF. IVF is required at the, ultimate stage. But for man, if it's a severe male infertility, nothing works except IVF.
So what are the common causes of infertility in men?
In men, it can be, a lot of times we don't know the cause, why the count is low. But yes, it can be an hormonal imbalance, thyroid, prolactin disorders can cause it. Sometimes there's a blockage. You're born with the blockage. It's known as congenital absence of the vase. Infections can cause it. Mumps in childhood can affect the ovaries and it leaves you infertile. Smoking, yes. It definitely affects the sperm count, the sperm quality, the motility.
Chewing gum?
No.
Okay.
But
this is just chatter that we hear about.
And also laptops on your lap. Because the laptop heats up. The testes are hanging outside the body, you know that. It's because the testes need a temperature which is 1 to 2 degrees lesser than your body temperature. Otherwise, the sperms won't function well. So anything that increases the temperature is harmful. Like, people working at furnaces day in and day out. That's bad. Then there is something called a varicocele. That means varicocele means what? A bag of worms. Lots of blood flow around the testes. Now, wherever there's blood flowing, there's heat.
Yes.
So that causes the problem. Okay. Then like laptops are supposed to cause these kind of problems. So yes, we tell the husbands not to use steam sauna when they are, when their sperm factor is affected.
So laptops on a woman's lap is okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Have been corrected many times for this. So doctor, why is infertility considered a women's issue when it's equally a man's?
I told you, that a whole society never thought a man was responsible. Now we know that it is responsible. And as I told you, there's a change in my practice also. Initially only the mother-in-law with the daughter-in-law used to come, or the mother with the daughter. Now the couples come together. So now they've realized that both are responsible for it.
In your clinic, in your practice, have you ever seen, families actually create that gender bias?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Can you give us some examples?
This woman comes with her son, and it's a second marriage. And I do the tests and everything, and the man has zero sperms. And this is a second marriage. And that mother in law just comes in with the girl, and she says, do something. I've got him married for the second time so that he can have a child.
My God.
I look at her and I tell her, the problem is not with the girls. The problem is with your son. He has zero sperms. Can you imagine breaking up a marriage? I mean, it makes my blood boil. Ki, in this day and age, you do that? You do such a thing? It's horrible. I wanted to, but then that poor girl, the second wife, she was obviously not from a very affluent family. For her, it was a life-saving, some of the girls don't work. We have to understand the situation of our girls also.
Situation.
And we did IVF, we took out the sperms from the testes and she conceived. She was so happy. And then she was reigning the roost because I met her afterwards and she had banished her mother-in-law. But we have to remember that don't be a mother-in-law like that.
Yeah. No, but there's a change. There's a change even in the mother-in-laws today.
No, I have seen the change.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of girls come in and say, don't say that I've got an issue in front of my mother-in-law, which is sad.
Because they feel
And
that
a lot of girls even protect their husbands. They'll say, okay, the family doesn't know he has a problem with the sperm.
they are our worst enemies.
Yeah, there is nothing to, it's a disease. It doesn't reduce your manliness or your manhood or anything. It's medical. But this is all, I think, due to myths and misconceptions in the society. So I'm glad we're talking about it, that if you have a sperm count which is not good, that doesn't mean you're not a man.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with your masculinity.
Absolutely nothing. In India, we have this habit that the parents, the sister, somebody comes with them. It's very sweet. But I always tell them, will you just wait outside for 5 minutes? I want to talk to this couple. There are embarrassing questions which I can't ask in front of you. So I usually, and then I chat with the couple and ask them my questions and queries and all that. And I actually take their permission to discuss it with the family. A lot of families today, it's a very surprising change that they say, no, my mother knows everything or my sister knows everything. So it's a pleasant change, because I'll tell you what happens. When you share with people, you share your woes with people, mental health becomes better.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you share your problem with somebody, not just keep it bottled up between the two people, because then it becomes, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. We don't want that to happen. So therapy is a very, very important pillar. When I talk to my patients or couples that you want to conceive, I think you have to look at different things. One is your food habits, eat healthy food, because overall general health is very important for fertility. Exercise, mild to moderate exercise is a must. Good sleep is a must. And mental health. I think these are the 4 things which are in the hands of the couple, and they need to look at it. And the medical part, I'm the boss.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay, I must give you the example of this one man. Okay, I enjoy this part of my life, talking to people, going on television, giving interviews and all. So one of this television wanted some patient. So this man came on TV and he said, I had low sperm count. I went for IVF and I've got this beautiful baby. Wow. I mean, and this was some time ago, like maybe 20 years ago.
Incredible.
It is incredible. I can still remember him, and I actually was amazed that he, wanted to do this. And he was the one who bought the television program to me. He said, there's this, he used to work, I think, in one of the sets only. And he said, I want to do this program, and I want to because I want the men to come forward and realize that there is hope and help for them. Believe me, it works wonders. If a patient comes and tells you that story, it is amazing.
Yes, there's no inspiration like a
Absolutely.
story. That and someone's honest experience.
Yeah. Another couple that I really remember a lot because technology, it was all technology. This couple had had 3 or 4 abortions. They'd come to me, and I was telling her, just go for surrogacy because it's easier,
And why were they having an abortion?
So I'm coming to that. So I said, go for surrogacy, because her body is rejecting the baby. So that time, there was something new test which was coming. And a friend of mine who had referred me said, Nandita, this lab is actually doing this test. I said, wow. And we did that genetic test, which studies about 700 to 900 genes of a person. Now it's very common, but not many people are using it because evidence has yet to be generated. It's very good for aging, but it's, still generating evidence. But I have really started benefiting from this test. And it actually told me what was the reason for her abortion. Like she needs anti-inflammatory, she has thrombosis problem, so she needs anticoagulants and all that. And believe me, I think I did 5 ovum pickups for her after those 4 abortions to get her eggs, meaning to retrieve the eggs. We did 5 procedures on her, and at the end of it, we got something like 5 babies, the period. And then we put it in, and we had done genetic testing also for her, for the babies. And we gave her all the support which this test said, and she carried home a baby.
Wow.
With her own eggs.
Incredible. And 4 abortions later.
I had one patient she got pregnant on the 8th time and came to me. I was happily partying at a friend's anniversary party and all. Somehow in that noise of the music and all, I saw the phone keep splashing. So I picked it up, and this girl, she was pregnant for the 8th time. I don't even remember what. And she had started bleeding. I went to the hospital, and she was just pouring out blood. You know how you open a tap?
Yeah.
She had aborted, and she had had a bucket handle tear, and I had to suture her up. And after that, I begged her. I said, please don't get pregnant again. This time I was able to save your life. But I don't know what will happen next time. You should go for surrogacy. This was very early. And husband was not willing. I said, at least don't get pregnant because you will lose your life. I don't think the baby is going to be born full term, but forget that. Your life is important. And then she came to me when she was 45. Okay. And she did surrogacy. She had a baby, but it took a good 10 years for the husband to finally accept it. And at 45, we had to use eggs from a donor. She didn't have her own eggs. But that woman was so grateful to have a child. So I feel so helpless,
Wow. There's only that much that.
Yeah. It was, you don't know the stress that I went through when I was suturing her up. Will I be able to save her or not? So it's, so what you're talking about gender, you know what women have to go through.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's a whole other side of it that I frankly wasn't even thinking about, but that's a whole other side of it.
So yes, surrogacy is a boon to a lot of people also. And now we have laws which have made it very, I think it's good because it does not allow frivolous reasons for surrogacy.
Yeah.
Because whatever it is, that woman is carrying your child and she's taking...
There's regulation now, which was
regulation.
Can you take us through what are the different solutions? IVF is one, but to deal with infertility.
Yeah, I think first and foremost is what you said which is the fertile period.
Yeah.
Have sex at the right time.
Okay, that's the first.
That's the first thing. Second thing is we have to do investigations to diagnose what is the problem. If it's a hormonal imbalance, a little correction of those hormones
With oral
with
medicine.
oral medicines would settle it. If there's some like endometriosis or a fibroid or there's a block, we can try surgery and repair it.
Okay.
Okay, so nearly 50 to 60% patients don't require IVF. The remaining 40 to 50% require IVF. But what is happening now is there's impatience. You're the generation, you flick your fingers and it has to be done. So you don't have patience.
Yeah.
So you lose it, you become depressed. You can't take it.
And you're stressed, which in turn is honestly not helping the case.
So, I always tell my girls ki do meditation or do something which you can, do. But people like me, I can't meditate to save my life. If I'm meditating, the mosquito will come and bite or I'll feel cold, those kind of things. So I tell them, go watch a good serial. Just to distract your mind. I love Big Bang Theory, Modern Family, Sarabhai versus Sarabhai, Hasya Samya, something Hasya Jatra or something. There's a Marathi thing which is really nice. I said, just go and watch those stand-up comedies, because it takes your mind away for that particular time. The minute you start stressing, read a book, listen to music, do these kind of things if you can't meditate. But meditation is ultimate. Trust me. I think it really helps.
So so after these, the next step is IVF?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Doctor, how much does the mindset impact conceiving?
See, it has not been shown by evidence that stress causes infertility.
But everyone says it.
No, but it's not proven. But yes, the infertility does increase your stress. The infertility causes stress and maybe time to pregnancy is delayed. So, there's no direct connection actually been established. But I feel overall, see, when you're stressed, the substances flowing in your body are negative substances, which are not good for your health.
Correct.
So I feel when you're happy, it's serotonin, good hormones, happy hormones.
Yeah.
It definitely helps. It definitely helps. And I'll tell you, patients would come with full faith. Doctor, they genuinely take home a baby.
Yeah.
Seriously. I think you have to have faith. You have to have that positiveness. Of course, there are negatives, cycles which come negative, but still, it's important, as I told you before, 4 attempts, 6 attempts. IVF is a repeated treatment. So you have to be mentally ready for that.
So, technical, but what is the success rate for first cycle for you to conceive?
If the woman is under 35, 50 to 60%.
Okay.
But if the woman is older, it keeps dropping, 30, 40, 20.
And say women under 35.
This is with the own eggs.
Yes.
If she goes for donor eggs, she's back to 50%, 60%.
And then in how many cycles on an average?
Will you believe me?
Yeah.
I had a patient who had 26 attempts of IVF.
Oh my, and was successful then?
She came to me for the 27th. I didn't do 26, okay? And she took home a baby.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But focused woman, I want it.
Wow.
I mean, she was...
This is determination.
That's
why a woman can have.
Single-mindedness. That I want a child. Her resilience.
Yes.
I admire that.
Yeah. So, doctor, what is an ovarian reserve?
Okay, ovarian reserve is something which tells us how many eggs are left in your ovary. Okay?
Okay.
You're actually, when you're in your mother's womb, you have millions of eggs. And they just drop down to about 1 million when you're born. And then, when you start ovulating, hundreds of eggs start growing every month. Only one lives and the others die. So, the number of eggs which are available in your ovary is known as the ovarian reserve.
So this is obviously diminishing with age.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is why it's important.
And do other lifestyle factors affect the ovarian reserve?
Smoking, alcohol, recreational drugs, all of them affect the ovarian reserve. Then pollution. these plastics, phthalates, etc., which are because of the plastics, or the pesticides which are there in our this.
Food
They all bring
habits?
down pesticides.
And what about eating habits?
Eating habits, uh, that diet which is very fatty
Yeah.
is not good. Obesogenic diet, I call it. That brings down the ovarian reserve. It causes aging faster.
Hmm. So and this has been discussed a lot, that women have a biological clock. But what about men? Do they have a biological clock too?
Not in the real sense of biological clock, but yes, they undergo, like something called an andropause. But what happens from fertility point of view, I'm a fertility expert, so I'll tell you that, is that after the age of 50, there is a slight increase in autism being to the children. So there are slight subtle changes which happen because of the increasing age of the man. But, like the incidence is very low if you take a big picture. Like in 10,000, if there's one, normally, with this, it would be 1.5. So not a major deal, but yes.
Young women today really suffer from PCOD. Can you talk about that?
I think,
As someone who doesn't suffer from it, I'm ashamed to say it, but I don't have that much awareness.
okay. I think it's fair enough. You're not a science student that you should be aware of everything. But PCOD is something known as a hormonal imbalance. And it could come from the mother or the father. Can you believe that? It could be genetic also. So, what happens in PCOD is because of the hormonal imbalance that happens, your ovaries don't produce the eggs. So, your periods are delayed, like you have a 40, 45 days cycle. I've seen some patients who don't ovulate for 1 year. They don't get periods for 6 months and 8 months until they take tablets. And the tablets which the doctors give, which we give, are only to get periods. They are not to make you ovulate. So there is a difference in the way we treat patients. Now, if I have a girl who wants a baby, I will give her ovulation inducing medicine and ask her to have sex so that when she produces the egg, she'll conceive. Whereas I have another young girl who's unmarried but who has PCOD and who's not getting periods, I will put her on oral contraceptive pills. Because those oral contraceptive pills are estrogen plus progesterone, which is lacking in her body because she's not ovulating. When you ovulate, the egg produces the estrogen, and then when it ruptures, there's progesterone which is produced by that corpus luteum. The egg turns into something else called the corpus luteum, and that produces the progesterone. So you're not having any of those hormones. And remember one thing, in fact, today only I had a patient that who I got my period in January and now I got it in August and I have not got my period yet. I have to take only medicines to get my period. I diagnosed her as PCOD and I explained to her that if this happens for say 5 years, 10 years, you can develop cancer of the uterus. So I told her, you don't think of oral contraceptive pill as having side effects and bad and everything, which your mother has probably told you. This is the 4th generation of oral contraceptive pills, which doesn't increase your weight, which doesn't have nausea, vomiting, too much side effect, and it is necessary for you. Because if you don't do it,
Your life is empty.
it's like diabetes, no? Don't you take insulin when you need it? It's like that. You don't have estrogen, progesterone, you need to take it. Because the body needs regular supply of hormones.
So what's PCOS?
Okay. I love this. PCOD and PCOS are the same name for the same problem.
Oh,
Yeah. Some people call it PCOS, some people call it PCOS, some people call it PCOD, PCOD.
okay.
So
it's the same thing.
Yeah. And it's a very complex disorder. It's, the latest guidelines which were released were 131 centers got together. 9 of our associations contributed and the guidelines were formed.
So doctor, is it harder for someone suffering from PCOD, PCOS to conceive?
Now see, PCOD, 30% of the patients conceive very easily. There's no problem. But they have regular periods and all. But those who have period problem is because they are not producing eggs. Now, if I have 10 patients of PCOD, first 3 patients will conceive just by giving tablets and have sex. The next 3 will require an IUI, which is intrauterine insemination. We've not touched on that at all. It's known as I will make that girl produce the egg. I will watch that egg on sonography because that's the only way we can figure out it's growing. When it is
So
ready,
during her ovulation
Yeah.
period, you will do a sonography.
no, day 2, day 7, day 8, we watch its growth.
Okay.
And then when the egg is ready, we'll give her the injection for rupture. Now, in IUI, we allow the egg to rupture in the body because I will take the semen and just put it inside the uterus gently. So everything happens in the body, the
Okay,
fertilization.
there is no extraction of the
No,
egg.
no.
Okay.
So it's as close to natural as possible. We are just timing it. Egg is rupturing, sperms are being deposited. That's all. Okay, and the success rate 10 to 15% only. But it's simple, honey. Don't look at me like you're used to 80 and 90%.
100% probably. But why just 10 or 15%, doctor?
That's how faulty reproduction is in the humans. Imagine if we had a you know what's the natural pregnancy rate? 8 to 10%. If we had a pregnancy rate which was 90%, we would be 20 billion by now on this earth.
What an incredible conversation. And I really, really, really hope we can create some positive impact. That
You know, the
That's
whole
kind of
idea
where,
of keeping this conversation light was to hold the audience because otherwise, what happens
you know,
if
it gets too serious, it gets too intense, and they
Yes.
drop off.
Exactly.
So I really hope in the lightest way we've been able to address some grave issues.
Yeah. It'll be great. And you know what? People who are suffering from infertility will definitely listen to this show. But I want this awareness, as you said. You know, we talk so much about different aspects, how to conceive, what to do, what is the impact of age. I think this is a general awareness, general knowledge question.
Yes, and you know what's happening, doctors? Say there are 5 people who are suffering from infertility, okay? But those 5 people, no, are influencing 50 people.
Of course, yes.
And then the 50 people might be taking very unaware decisions, very uninformed decisions, which is where an expert like you kind of comes and see everyone doesn't have the access to you in,
Yeah.
the hospital or in your clinic, which is why it's my privilege to have you here and talk to so many people, right? So everyone can hear what you have to say, and you've been doing this for so long.
No, I think you have really you have that knack of bringing out the person's, or the addressing the right questions. So I really enjoyed this. And I hope you achieve your goal. And of course, for me, I love my job, as I said, and spreading the awareness and educating people is something which I really adore, and I think I will keep doing it while I'm in my rocking chair.
We watch you as we watch you. But thank you so much, doctor.